Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be flying out the Yak-3. Now the Yak-3 is a very nice plane in general. It is very fast and quite maneuverable, although I would not say that you will outmaneuver a Spitfire when the Spitfire pilot knows what he is doing, which I will actually show you later on in this game. But I also do think that, well, in the end it is my personal opinion, but I think that this plane is better than the Yak-3P just because of the lower BR and the fact that you really don't need the extra 20mm guns to get successful kills in the Yak-3. You get 120 cannon rounds, which are definitely enough to take down enemy fighters, and the extra 300 12.7mm rounds are also very nice. The Russian 50 cals are very nice guns overall against basically anything. Not necessarily against bombers, but they're very nice against enemy fighters. So with my personal opinion out of the way, let's actually get into the game. I dive on the Typhoon and, well, to be honest, I don't think he was paying very much attention at all. So I take him out very quickly. Now there's this Hellcat that just set afire our friendly P-47. I go up to evade his shots, and then I kind of keep going up to try and gain more altitude if he were to go up after me, but he doesn't, so I try to go back down on him, but he dives very hard for the deck, so I do not want to engage that and lose all my altitude at this point. But that does not mean we are out of targets. There is a Spitfire coming in for us, and this is where I will make a very big mistake in this fight. I really should have died here. For some reason I thought that this guy had less energy than me, even though he had the altitude advantage and therefore can gain a bit more speed. And as you can see, it actually is roughly the same, but he is still behind me and that is an issue. I cut my throttle to make him overshoot, because that is really the only thing I can do right now. Try and get guns on, just barely miss him, and he goes back down, so I try and get a shot on him again, but he really starts to dive quickly now, so I retract my flaps and just kind of start spraying, because I still have quite a bit of ammo left. Get some nice hits into the fuselage and both wings fall off. So that is their team actually almost completely dead. There is one Spitfire left that I will kill, but I will put a jump cut here because it does take about 2 minutes for me to find him. So after flying around a bit and activating my order, I find him, and to be honest, this guy really kind of looks like he is either AFK or not paying attention whatsoever, because I get a lot of hits on him, and I am a little surprised that it took that many hits to take him down, but then again, it's the end of the game, so it's not a big deal. So with the first game done, we are going to go to the second game now. So the second game we are versing the Japanese, and that is an issue because the Japanese are really dangerous opponents to the Russian teams, because they are very maneuverable and sometimes even faster than you, and your speed is really the only advantage that you have over the Japanese, because they have some really strong planes in this BR, and some of them are even faster than you. I make a little pass on the J2M, don't get any hits in, and I try and follow up after him, but as you can see, he turns around so quickly that I can't even get guns on, and if I would have continued that loop, he would have actually probably been able to shoot me down. So I try and evade his shots here, but I get hit, thankfully, only with the 7.7s. If he hit me there with the 20mm, then this game could have ended very differently. I decide to dive, because I really can't fight J2Ms that are higher than me, because, first of all, they're more maneuverable than me, and they are actually the planes that could potentially catch you in a dive or in a level flight. So I really have to watch out for that guy. However, I would even say that fighting Zeros is even more of a pain in the ass than fighting the J2Ms, because the J2Ms you can still, if you know what you're doing, outmaneuver if they make some mistakes. The Zeros, however, are quite a different story. The A6M5 in particular can be equally fast as you in a dive, and obviously they turn extremely well and they climb fairly decent for their limited weight, so you can't really zoom climb away from them because they keep their speed really well. And overall, the only thing that you can really do is dive down, which obviously puts you in a disadvantage because you are lower than your enemy. But the Yak's dive speed is really not that much better than the Zero's, so they could even keep up with you in a dive, which is really quite a big problem if that is really the only thing that you can do. So, I have two guys right in front of me. One is a J2M and the other is a Zero. I'm going to be going for the J2M because I want to try and take out at least this guy before I even bother with the A6M. I try and get some shots on, but he evades just in time. I put the plane right behind him and try and get some more shots on, but I really don't want to be taking too many shots here because he's maneuvering and I don't want to run out of ammo, because it is so that you have enough ammo, but you do have to be careful with your shots. I dived down after him a little bit, thinking he was maybe going to level off earlier, but he doesn't, so I put the plane back into a climb with the speed that I gained to try and recover some of my altitude. And here is where the real problems start. The A6M5 is going to be a real problem for me, because the only way that I'm gonna come out of this fight alive is if he makes a mistake. So I turn around to try and make him engage me. I go up to try and get him out in front of me so I can shoot him. It does work out, he overshoots. I try and get shots on. I get some hits into the wing, but it doesn't result in any critical damage, so this is now going to be an issue, because if you don't take him out in the very first pass, then most of the time they will be able to stick on your ass. So I basically just zoom climb away from him, and this is what I said. They are so light, and their engines are, especially in the A6M5, are good enough that they can actually keep up with you. Now he is spraying with 7.7s, and I try and just wiggle around so he doesn't hit me. He does actually get quite a few hits into me, but thankfully they're only 7.7s and don't really damage me that much, so that I can still have a relatively functioning plane after he is done. And at this point I decide this is not going to work, so I put the plane into a dive to get more speed and try and bring the fight into a different direction. Now I turn my plane into as small a profile for him as I can, so that he can't shoot me. And this is exactly what I said. I'm cutting throttle completely here, and he just doesn't really come any closer to me. Only now does he come a little bit closer to me, but even still, he can very easily just stay on my ass, with me trying my very best to lose as much speed as I can, so that I end up with him in front of me. Now these scissors are quite often a fight that I really enjoy, but as I said, in a Yak against a Zero, it is very unlikely that you're gonna win, unless obviously he goes right in front of your guns. Now I must say I was quite lucky here, because I was in the right place at the right time for my guns to actually hit him, and obviously also cause enough damage that he actually goes down and set him on fire. So that was quite lucky. Now it does take a while before anything remotely interesting happens again, so I will put a jump cut here and I will see you once the action resumes. So after a while of me flying around, I spot that there is a lonely A6M5 pounding some ground targets, so I decide to go and take him out, because the less enemies there are on the enemy team, the easier it is for me to win the game for our team, because our team actually has almost all died except for a few bombers and me. I get a few hits on the A6M, I put the plane up into a climb, go back down on him, and I think I may have hit his engine, because he is quite slow. I get some more hits in, and right here he makes it very easy for me to just completely saw off his wing. Now at this point I have very little ammunition left, and very little fuel as well, so I decide to just really gun it for my airfield to try and land and get some more ammunition. And I will be back with you once I have done that. After I took off from the airfield, the J2M that you see above me right now was spotted and has basically stayed with me ever since, shadowing me while I try and climb a little bit so that I can at least have some altitude to fight him. Now he decides to dive down, so this is basically where the fight starts. However, I put the plane down into a little dive to get a little more speed, and that's when he basically pulls off, but then after he sees that I level off, he goes for the fight again. This time I go down a bit harder and he again immediately pulls off from his attack, which is, it's I guess the smarter thing to do instead of following me down all the way to the deck. Now he goes for another attack run and I try and keep it straight for as long as possible, basically to bait him down. I thought I did long enough, but he again breaks off from his attack. But he is close enough now that I zoom up after him and try and get some hits in. Now I extend my flaps, which actually probably was not the best thing to do. I should have done it a little bit later. But I get some guns on, sadly don't get any hits, and I basically have to dive down now because he's gonna come right for me. I need to get some more speed to really be able to defend myself. I see him shoot, so I start evading like a madman with the rudder so that I hope he won't hit me. Now, he is a lot faster than me, which is good for me in this situation, because that means that he will overshoot and I possibly have a option to kill him. He overshoots, or at least pulls up, and I pull up right after him, and I do basically the same that I did earlier, although this time he loses a lot more speed and he is a lot closer, and he makes it relatively easy for me to shoot him down. So I will have to put another jump cut here because it takes quite a while for me to get engaged by another enemy fighter. So I will be back with you once the action resumes. So after a while of me going back to base, landing just for the sake of it and climbing up to about 5 kilometers altitude, I spot myself a Kai-43. Now the Kai-43 is a very dangerous aircraft. It is very light, it is extremely maneuverable, and the climb rate is absolutely insane. So I really have to watch out with this guy. I push for a head-on attack, and this head-on attack was probably one of the luckier moments in the game because I very severely hit his engine, and it is very noticeable from very early on already. I fly down towards my airfield to try and evade him so that he won't be able to really follow me and I can still have an advantage over him, because any regular normal fight I will definitely not win against him. But I, at this point, already noticed that he is very slow, and at this point I had already figured out his engine is down, so this guy is basically almost no threat to me anymore, although he does have some altitude, so he could still try and get me to overshoot and for him to get guns on and shoot me down. Now I do get some hits, and there, as you see, he very nearly managed to hit me. So I decide to go down again, and as you can see I open the distance so extremely fast, so I only really should be engaging him from higher altitude and make sure that he loses almost all of his energy and just work him down towards the deck. So I go right after him again. He is the last guy on the enemy team, so after this guy is dead, the game is done. I do have a friendly PE-8, but he is landing, and right now he, to be honest, really can't do very much. Even if he gets guns on, then I would have to be really stupid, which granted I was a little earlier on, but I learned from my mistake and I just let him work himself down and low and slow. Now he comes up after me, which is, well, to be honest, really the only thing he can do, but he loses speed so quickly that he basically stalls himself out, and right now this is basically the end of the game. He is very slow and I have a very easy time shooting his wing off. Now granted, he did do the best that he could, but the moment I put rounds into his engine and his engine started failing, it was game over for him. He even admits it himself in chat. So that was it for today. I do hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will catch you in the next one.